Hi, I'm Bob Dixon. Welcome to the Leader's Edge Hot Takes edition of the Five Eagles Insight Podcast. For over 3 decades, I served in the military as an engineer and as a strategist, and I learned a few things about leadership. We know that it goes beyond theory. It's about real-world application. So in this series, sponsored by Five Eagles Leadership, we feature industry leaders and share their leadership journeys with you. My mission's simple. It's to help you become the best leader you can be. Now, if that sounds like something you're interested in, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. If you'd like to be considered as a guest in upcoming episodes, please go to 5eaglesleadership.com/interview and apply today. Now, let's get started.
Welcome back to the Leader's Edge podcast. I'm Marisa McClure, and joining me today is Abigail Burnett from Denver, Colorado. Abigail is the CEO of AI&I Creative. Welcome, Abigail, and thanks for being here today.
Yes. Hi, Marisa. Good to see you, and happy to be here.
All right. Let's dive right into some questions because I'm excited to hear more about your business. So
Absolutely.
To get us started, give us about a 90-second overview of your business and maybe tell us a little bit of why you got into it.
Yes, the famous elevator pitch. Okay, so essentially AI&I Creative, we are a content creation company. So not a marketing agency, a content creation company. So we focus on taking a brand's style guide and their audience and helping them formulate a strategy and then generating content to fulfill their goals. So one of the biggest takeaways as far as my company is obviously AI is in the title. We do work closely with AI. And so we have developed a lot of specific stratagem that we plug into our AI that then help us create content that is specifically attuned to each company's brand style guide. And then we have a human editor team, US based only, 10 years of experience always, that actually then take that AI created content and focus it down just to give it back that human touch and make sure it's good to go. And then we deliver to the customer, and they're always happy with it. I will say that. It's always exactly what they wanted. So that's the best part of using AI.
I love the idea of combining the AI with, keeping that human element involved in the equation, right? Because if you get too far with just the AI, you lose that human touch.
Exactly. And a lot of marketing agencies or content creation companies, even though they don't admit it, are starting to use AI in their workflows often. It's just so easy. You create me something that sounds like this or that focuses on this. But then they don't admit it and they pretend like they're not doing that. And so we fully involve AI from the get-go, and we're very transparent about our processes. We do have our own formulas. Like I said, we've got our in-house set of prompts that we've developed, which I obviously am not going to share, that help us to create the best possible output from the AI. But then after that, we can add back in with our editors that have been doing this for a decade that can then, make sure that it still has the human element, make sure there's no errors, and it's really great.
That's awesome. So how did you get into this work?
So I actually got into it because I'm kind of a serial entrepreneur. I do have a couple other companies that you would see on my LinkedIn. And basically what happened is I saw AI. I love AI. I love tech in general and kind of all new stuff. And so I understood the path/direction that things were going with AI and the marketing world. I think historically it's been you hire a marketing agency or you hire a company that can do the content creation and do this for you, but it's always very expensive. So I wanted to democratize this by using AI so that now everyone can have access to top tier content creation without having a budget for having like a huge contract like $50K a year to drop on content marketing. which as a small business owner, I know isn't possible.
Yeah.
The other side of it is if you're not a big enough company, you don't necessarily have the ability to have a whole marketing department either, right?
Right.
So it kind of birthed from just my own experience of being a small business owner, having started a few companies, being in that headspace of knowing how important content creation is in order to communicate the ideas and the direction of each of my businesses. But obviously, when you're a small business, you just don't have the funds for it. So
Yeah.
there's a definite need for this. And then also just incorporating AI into it to make it so that it's even more streamlined, even more affordable, and quicker and more accurate as well.
Yeah, that's great. Being able to provide some tools to small businesses that they may not have organically. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. Yep. So kind of just seeing what I would want or what I need for myself, and then instead of going to look for it, going to find a company that is maybe doing it, why don't I just start doing it kind of thing, you know?
Yeah.
So,
No, that sounds great.
yeah.
Okay. So what would you say is the biggest problem that you see in your industry, and what are you doing to solve that for yourself and for your clients?
Yeah, so I guess I kind of answered that just now. A big thing I've been seeing is just these overpriced, huge contracts. And this is not only just for small business, I see it also with big Fortune 500 companies. A lot of the editors on my team that work with me have worked for big Fortune 500 companies, Salesforce, Citibank, Chase, tons of these big companies that have these multi-million dollar contracts with other marketing agencies. And I just think it's unnecessary at this point with where the industry is going. I don't think even those big companies need to have all this huge budget for marketing, and there's so much bureaucracy always in huge companies like that too.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the biggest issues I see is just big companies having these huge contracts and overspending on it, or having huge marketing departments when they don't need to if they're not already outsourcing. And then on the small business side, it's what I said prior, which is a lot of times small businesses need to put out content, need to have a branding message going out that's consistent, that's well spoken, well written, but they don't always know where to start or have the budget to hire a company to help them start. So that's probably the two big issues.
Yeah. And I think you've kind of already touched on this a little bit too, but kind of thinking about who is your ideal client. And so obviously, small business, you did also mention, you can provide for larger companies as well. But is there anything else that kind of highlights who is your ideal client, and what are some of the outcomes they can expect from working with you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think actually there is one more tier, and I can dive back into the small business or the corporate side a little bit more. But the other line that we do offer is our white label. So there are a lot of marketing agencies or content creation agencies out there, and we actually do have a white label service where they can continue to have their clients that they have under their branch. I even have some people just that I've known for years that have been in this industry even longer than I have. And I'm not trying to take business away from them necessarily, because they're also small business owners. What I'm trying to do is help them streamline their own business. So in that case, it would be a white label approach where, hey, you can hire us, you still have your contracts, you still have your clients with your content creation, with your marketing, but come to us with our processes, with our streamlined AI approach and our, expertise. We can cut your costs down that you can then either pass on to your customers or just take a bigger profit for yourself. So that's one thing that I didn't mention so far is our white label process. The other two are, like I said, the small business approach. The biggest thing I think that a small business would get is a lot of times small companies don't have a background in marketing. They don't necessarily have their brand style guide figured out, their personas figured out. They don't necessarily know exactly what their audience is or their brand's vision. They can kind of say it, but they don't have it written out in a way that's easily communicable. And so I think that's a big approach we do for small business, is helping them develop all that. With a larger corporation, it's highly likely that they already have specifically used this logo with this background. You know, they have their style guide. They have the way they like things worded, things to say, things to not say. So it's not so much helping them develop that, but a big key that they can benefit from working with us is we can take their style guide and we can use that exact voice and plug it into our AI prompting system. And so it's even better than if they hired just a flat out human writer, because if you have a human writer, there's always going to be a little bit of that voice in there. There's always going to be a little bit of that human element that's almost taking away from or adding in a style that they may not want, that they then have to go back again and edit out. So by us starting with a base of where they want to be, where their audience is, where their targets are, where they want to sound, where they want to sound like, then we can put it into AI, and then we add back in the human. It's just a little bit more efficient for a corporate company. Plus, pricing structure, because we're a smaller company, because we incorporate AI, we can do a better pricing structure. So we can do the same thing a big marketing company can do for a quarter of the price. So that would probably be the big thing for corporate.
Yeah, great. And my next question is usually kind of what makes you unique, but I think you've already touched on several things, right? A lower price point maybe for some of those smaller businesses, the combination of the AI and the human touch. Is there anything else that makes you unique in how you support your clients?
Let me think for a second.
Those are two great ones. So,
Yeah, I mean, they are great. Let me think for a second. I think another thing is just that we don't position ourselves as a marketing company. We do position ourselves as a content creation specific company. We have a serious focus on what you're writing, what you're putting out, what you're communicating to your clientele. We're not trying to come into a company in any scenario, small business, white label, or corporate, and tell you, hey, here's how to strategize, here's how to here's how to run your business. No, we're here to take what you are already trying to do and to make sure you're communicating it as well and as cleanly as possible. So I think we just have a really good focus and a streamlined approach to content creation that other marketing agencies kind of get their own ego in there of here's what I think you should be doing. I'm not trying to tell other business owners how they should be communicating. I'm trying to make sure that they're doing it as well as they can and as easily as they can.
Yeah, that sounds great. So where do you see this industry going in the next 5 to 10 years? I mean, obviously, because you work with AI, it's going to be a lot of probably fast-paced change happening. What do you think that's going to look like?
Yeah, I mean that is the future, short term and long term, is already a big part of this company and why I decided to get into it. I think already this year there's going to be more companies that are doing what I'm doing, either openly or, like I said, maybe not as openly, but already incorporating AI maybe more than they say they are. So I think that's going to continue. I think anytime you're looking at a new technology, obviously AI is a buzzword right now. I mean, people talk about it all the time and they don't even really know exactly what it is. It is hard to predict where that stuff is going to go, just how far it can go. I think that's why I kept the human focus as a part of our brand mission, because people are going to lean into using AI as a tool more and more and more and more. I think at some point there's going to be a moment where it's like, okay, what are we losing? How can we incorporate that human element back into this tool? Because it's a fantastic tool. I love AI. I love tech. I'm all about it.
Right.
But obviously, with any new technology, there's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be things you got to figure out, and there may have to be a little bit of backpedaling too. So I think AI landscape in general is probably going to keep getting more and more in depth and more crazy and even more popular, and then there's going to reach a point where it's like, okay, have we gone too far? How do we kind of reincorporate our human workforce into our AI workforce and make sure that they're streamlined and working together? The other thing I see in the industry of content creation in particular is big companies like Salesforce, like Citibank, like Chase, they're going to wake up and realize maybe we don't need to be hiring a company on a $20 million contract to do our content creation when we can do it for a lot less just by going to a company like mine.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that is something that other companies that maybe aren't using AI yet are going to have to wake up to when their contracts are suddenly falling from out from under them.
Yeah.
But those are probably the couple things that I would say.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, you have to kind of keep up with the technology because otherwise you get left behind. And
Right.
it seems like, with working with certain small businesses, they may also, you mentioned they don't have a lot of marketing experience. They also might not be tech savvy. And so having someone
Right.
like you to help them stay, on top of those developments, I think could be really helpful as well.
Yeah, and I mean AI as the average consumer uses it or knows of it today is your Chat GPT where you plug in what does this mean? You're almost using it like Google right now, right?
Yeah.
But people who are really using AI to the best of its ability are familiar with the proper prompting process.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I mentioned earlier with AI and I, creative. We've developed a set of of prompts and of ways to prompt that enable us to input specific style guides, to get exactly what we're wanting out of the AI, and we use many different. We don't just use ChatGPT. We've used Gemini. We've used Grok. We can expand and use those same prompts and tweak them based on the AI we're using. Smaller companies or people that maybe aren't as tech savvy don't know how to prompt well, so they're not going to get what they want out of it as well as we can. And then the other thing is, yeah, there's a little bit of a barrier to entry when you're trying to be precise, which is what we've got going for us. We've developed our prompting strategy, plus combined with our experience from our editor, with our decade of experience in editing, we've really streamlined that process, and so everything is just way more approachable for us than it might be for someone who doesn't know as much about the tech.
Yeah, great. Okay, so you've had a lot of experience. You mentioned that you've started several different companies. So, what has been the biggest challenge or failure that you have experienced thus far, and how has that helped shape how you do business now?
Yeah, I think a big one is going to be similar to what other people have gone through just with regards to COVID and the pandemic. Um, what I learned from that wasn't because I wasn't working in an office. We've kind of almost always had a virtual team. My business partners and I live in different states.
Okay.
So I didn't have the same issues with COVID and kind of like, oh my gosh, how do we convert to working at home that other people do? I'm at home right now. I'm in
Right.
my office right now.
Yeah.
A big thing that happened though is at the time the business that I was doing was construction, and there was a lot of disruption that happened.
Yeah.
And essentially, what I learned from that is I need to have a few things going at a time because if I have all of my eggs in a basket and then something unpredictable happens, which in this world it will,
Yep.
I always need to have not just an A, B, C plan, but honestly, this year I'm kind of going into like the Greek alphabet at this point. Like, okay, A through Z, those plans were great. Where are we now? Let's go to alpha, beta, and so
Yeah.
on. So I think the biggest challenge I've had is just that ability to pivot when things happen that aren't in your control or that you didn't plan for at all,
Yeah.
or that you couldn't have planned for. So I try to nowadays, ever since 2020, ever since that experience, okay,
Yeah.
I'm not only focusing on, for example, growing AI and I creative. I'm also thinking about, okay, where can this go? Push this company as far as it can go, but don't just stop there. What's the next step? What's the next step in this industry? What's something else that's on the horizon that maybe no one is seeing right now? And try to diversify what I do as much as possible so that
Yeah.
whenever there's inevitably some chaos going on, I can I can make sure that I'm either taking advantage of it or at the very least being okay.
Yeah. No, I love that. I was in the military for a long time, and one of my favorite sayings was, no plan survives first contact with the enemy. Right? So you
Right.
always have to have those backup plans, contingencies ready to go because you just can't predict what's going to happen, right? Like you said, like, life gets in the way. There's always something, going on that's going to disrupt whatever it is you're trying to do. So I like the idea of really being prepared for anything and having some backup plans and things like that in place. That's
Right.
really smart, a smart way to approach it.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, you understand it for sure. I mean, I think anyone can, but a big thing too is with partnerships. I try to make sure because when you have a partnership, you have your network. Sometimes there can be a snowball effect. So in a lot of ways, I have contingency plans there too. Of like, okay,
Yeah,
if something happens with this partner, do we have other people that can provide that service or
right.
so on? So
Yeah. No,
yeah.
that's great. Yeah, love that. Okay. So what is your next area of growth, whether it's for you or your business or one of your businesses?
Yeah, so we are actually very in the beginning as far as AI and I creative goes. We just launched this year in January,
Okay.
so I'm trying not to get too ahead of myself. I'm very much in the early stages right now, just getting exposure. It's part of why I'm here today. Leaning into my network a little bit more, getting the word out that we're doing this, that the time is now. Even if you're a little bit worried about AI or not sure about it right now, this is kind of the direction things are going, and it's better to take advantage and know how to use it to your advantage sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
So I'm really focused in the short term on just growing AI and getting the word out there, networking, and then reaching out on like not only to bigger companies and smaller businesses, but also on the white label service that we provide. So yeah, I'm really focused on the short term of just growing this company at this point right now.
Sounds great. All right. Fun question before we wrap up. If you could have lunch with anyone, dead or alive, who would you choose and why?
Yeah, so my answer is not on par with anything business, really. Well, kind of. It would be Candace Parker, the basketball player.
Basketball, right? Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Yep.
I, first of all, I think definitely I mean, this word is used a lot nowadays, the whole GOAT thing.
Okay, yeah.
But Candace Parker is absolutely one of the goats. I mean, she was the first woman to dunk.
Yeah.
Um, she really grew. She was actually the only ever uh, basketball player in the WNBA to win Rookie of the Year and MVP in the same year.
Oh, wow.
Um, like she was just an incredible player, and she just retired this last season. Her last year was in 2023, um, and I actually have her jersey. But I
Oh,
just think she's so cool,
nice.
and she's done a lot for the sport. And I love basketball, but then I also think she's done a lot personally as a businesswoman that I think I could, even though her industries are not mine at all. I'm 5'2". I will not ever be a basketball player, right?
So that would be a
But
fun picture after your lunch. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. She's like a foot tall, over a foot taller than me.
Yeah.
Um, but I just think even though we have totally different, uh, I guess, areas of expertise or things we're doing or growing in, she would definitely. I know for a fact that I could learn some things from her, just in general about life and also about business. So I
Yeah.
definitely think Candace Parker would be really cool.
Yeah, that sounds like a fun lunch. All
Yeah.
right. Great. Okay, so last question. How can people contact you? How can they learn more about your business? How can they reach you if they want to work with you? What's the best way to track you down?
Yeah, so we have a website. It's aimicreative.com.
Okay.
So definitely check out our website. Everything is on there. It even talks about our process. And you can also reach out through that. That does go directly to me and my team. You can always find me on LinkedIn. Abigail Burnett is my name. Also look up AI and I Creative on LinkedIn. It's on there as well. Those are probably the two best ways to contact me right now, just through the website or through LinkedIn.
Okay. Sounds great. Well, thank you so much for being here today and telling us more about what you're working on. It sounds like a really exciting future ahead for you.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. It was fun.
All right, take care.
All right, you too.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to the Leader's Edge Hot Take Series. I hope you found today's insight meaningful, valuable, and that you're ready to put them into action. Now, if you enjoyed the episode and want to keep improving your leaderships, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future episodes. I post new content every week, packed with strategies, tips, and real-life examples to help you lead with impact. Now, remember, great leadership isn't just about guiding others, it's about continuously growing yourself. If you'd like to be considered as a guest for upcoming episodes, please go to 5eaglesleadership.com/interview to apply today. Keep pushing, keep learning, and I'll see you in the next episode. Be awesome.